Well, once a week, it's always once a week. It's time to go inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Cebollero, excited to be with you. And if you are watching us on video on YouTube, this is my excited face. And with me always is my good friend, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The ladies know he's the man with the power, Kelly Grayson. KG, what's going on? Looks like you're losing a little bit of weight, all that swimming you're doing.
Yeah. It's dropping off, man. I'm down about 40 pounds
Awesome, man.
over where I was back in April. So, and the knees don't hurt so bad. Cortisone injections to thank for for those knees.
Yeah, it's
But
good.
yeah,
It's good you're keeping off them.
yeah,
So
I did 70 laps in the pool this morning, man. Go team me.
and then you're doing, what are you doing running in the pool? You post that you're running in the
Yeah,
pool.
I'm
What the
running
heck
in
does
the
that
pool.
mean?
Well, number one, when I swim, I work my upper body more than anything else, and my knees and my legs need the workout. So I get in the pool, and it's a 25-meter pool. I jog in the water from the shallow end to the halfway point where it's 5.5 feet deep. So 4 feet to 5.5 feet. And then I turn around and go back,
Yeah,
and that's one lap of the
it
pool.
probably takes a lot shorter than this description of what you're doing.
I'll put it to you this way: it's an hour of that without rest burns about 1,700 calories.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's working, so we can see it. So we
Yeah.
do have a guest who's joining us at the guest table, our good friend. He is an author. He is a speaker. He is a consultant. He is a friend of the show. He's always been a friend of the show. He's a friend to you and I. Chief Gary Ludwig. Chief, how are you doing?
I am blessed. I wish I was blessed as both of you guys, but
Come on.
Kelly, that's an awesome 40 pounds. And I started sweating just listening to you with all the work you're doing there. So
That's right. I don't like walking from here to the car, Chief. So he's doing really good. But
I like
Chief,
being able to walk from here to the car. That's why I'm doing it.
that's right. One of the things that we were talking about, Chief, as we were scheduling you for the show is I miss reading your articles. I mean, you had a monthly article on leadership that we would read every month. And, you've written a lot of books and, you have a new one out. It's 385 things veteran EMTs and paramedics can teach. And I'm excited to talk to you about it. Kelly's been writing. He's got a couple #1 bestsellers now. I've always been in the writing mode and, just continuing along. And one of the questions that I like to ask authors when I have them on is, what was the catalyst? Why did you write this book? And how'd you come up with this idea for this book?
So it's about giving back. One of the things I think is important as we season ourselves in this profession is how can we bring up those that are coming behind us? And one way of doing that is to share your thoughts and share your ideas, gather information from others that are a lot smarter than I am, and kind of compile that all together and share that wisdom and share that information and share those pearls of wisdom with these youngsters that are coming up behind us. And so that's what it's all about is trying to pass on the information.
That people talk about us, we dinosaurs in EMS, people that are the parasauruses, and we got 3 parasauruses right here in the show today. But my significant other points out that we can't negate or we can't ignore the knowledge capital that these experienced hands bring to the table. Even if you think that they might be clinically a little outdated, they've accumulated a lot of wisdom over the years. Now, Gary, I was curious, where did you get all these tips and tricks? Did you mine your friends list for material, or do you keep a running tally of cool things to pass on to the next generation?
Yeah, so good question, Kelly. And one of the things that I have done with a lot of my books, and I have a bunch of others that I have ideas about for the future here is when I come up with an idea, I either put it in the notes section of my phone, or if I'm here at the desk, I got index cards, and I write it down on the index card, and I put it in a file folder. And so some of it is what I have experienced over my 46-year career, working on the streets of St. Louis, working on the streets of Memphis, obviously 2 busy urban EMS systems. And not only what I learned working those streets, but also listening to those other seasoned firefighter paramedics and paramedics that work on those streets. And then once you hear something, you kind of write it down. And then you go to conferences. You listen to people speak, such as you and Chris, and you're sitting in that lecture, and most everything I'm like, I know that, and I go, oh, you know what? I never knew that, and I write that down. So Kelly, it's been a compilation of getting information from a bunch of different people. And I'll tell you what, I teach at one of the local community colleges here in the paramedic program. And just right before I published the book, the director, he said something about using easy IOs on eggs. I go, what? And he says, yeah, that's a good way of practicing your easy IOs, was on eggs, and see if you can drill without, losing on a raw egg, I should say, without losing, the contents of it. I said, I never heard of that before, because if you don't have a cadaver to practice on or something like that, what do you practice on? And so it's long answer, but it's a combination of a whole bunch of things where I got this information at.
Yeah. Well, I think you practice on the sales reps, don't you, Kelly? Not when they come in.
Yeah.
If you want me to buy that, you're going to have to show me how to use it.
One class of Acadian's paramedic students, easy IO to raw egg, something like 180 something times without breaking it.
One egg?
One egg.
Wow.
Oh my
I've
God.
heard 30.
Yeah, basically, it's like a wiffle egg at the end.
Well, how was that stuff just not dripping out?
Well, it was dripping out, but I mean, they didn't break the egg,
All right. So, Chief, take us through this book, right? So if we look about, if we think about the chapters that you wrote and give us a couple of the chapters, maybe give us a little bit of what those chapters are including. And then one of the things I want you to touch on too, Chief, maybe you hit this first before you talk about the chapters. One of the things that you said in your response to Kelly was that you're leaving something for the people who are coming behind. In your experience of 46 years and, me in the 30s and Kelly in the 30s, are we losing a little bit of something with the new generation of not wanting to learn from us? So, you know what I mean? So now as we start to, because the way that we were taught, I mean, we had the baby boomers up our butts, man, when we were getting into the field. Now as we're starting to change, do you think this book will resonate with the newer people?
I'm hoping so. And I know, you have all the different generations, and I'm a baby boomer, and you got the millennials and Generation Y and Z and all that sort of stuff, and they all have their little idiosyncrasies about how they learn. And I know the younger generations, as you know, guys, they're not really going to conferences. They're not really showing up at these conferences. And the mindset with them is that whatever I need to know, I can just Google it. I can get that information on Google. And so I know there's going to be a few that go, you know what, if I need to know something, I can Google it. But I'm hoping that I can outreach to different programs, education programs, and outreach to those directors. And maybe they want to share this as a graduation gift with their EMT or their paramedics.
Yeah, great idea.
And if you put, go ahead, Kelly.
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's what I'd like to try to do. And then if we can put it in their hands, and like myself, they might read this book and go, "Oh, I knew that. But you know what? I didn't know that." And and if they can walk away with something, that's what I'm hoping for, is that we can kind of pass it on to this younger generation growing up here, as they grow up.
Yeah. One of the things to think about, Chief, is maybe you should set up an online portal for the book that as people read it, they can add their own tips under the specific chapters. You know what I mean? Because there may be something, as you mentioned, the egg that you just learned about. But when we talk about the chapters of the book, maybe this is that time to transition, because that's where we started this off at. Maybe give us a couple of the chapters of the book, what they entail.
So I'll tell you what, the first chapter, guys, and this might resonate with you, is what do you teach that EMT or their paramedic on their first day? The first day they step onto that vehicle. Hopefully they've had some type of orientation, but a lot of services, that's not such a luxury sometimes. But at the same time, even if they've had an orientation, this is an opportunity for you to do one-on-one with them. And so the first chapter deals with what do you teach at EMT and paramedic on the first day. And I can kind of get into some of those things if you want at some point. And then, there's tips about airway management, assessing a patient, medical patients, about trauma patients, penetrating trauma. I can go through the list of all the different chapters, and driving the ambulance. What are the tips on driving the ambulance? As an example, I talk about in the book, you always want to stay, even on a non-emergency run, you want to stay in the left lane. Why? I think you guys probably know this, but you want to stay in the left lane because if you do get an emergency run and cars have to pull to the right, you're already in the left lane. You don't have to try to navigate to the left lane. And even at a stop sign, if you're at an electric light on an emergency run, leave enough room between you and the car in front, because of the fact that if you do catch an emergency run, you don't have to wait for the traffic to clear out. You can turn on your lights and sirens and pull to the left and just go around the cars. It's stuff like that. It talks about going through intersections, about hovering over the brake. Even if you're not accelerating, you go over the brake. Intersection accidents, as you know, guys, is just terrible for our profession. And the majority of these accidents occur when people are going against the red light and the other cars have the green light. That's when the majority of our vehicle accidents happen and our people get injured. And so there's just a bunch of tips about driving. I talk about tipping stretchers. You'd be surprised how often stretchers tip over on people, and when the predominance of when that happens. Again, there's just 385 different things in here that we try to pass on to the younger generation, and documentation is another one that we can talk about.
Yeah, let's save documentation, but tipping stretchers are one that we know very well, don't we, Kelly?
Wait, I didn't tip over any stretchers.
Whatever, man. Whatever.
Now, some of my former colleagues, tipped one over on television just last week. So a little egg in their face. But Gary, I like that you mentioned that the impetus behind this was passing on that knowledge to the younger generation, trying to teach Generation Z, who traditionally, don't really value knowledge acquisition because they got the sum total of human knowledge at their fingertips, that they can't always rely on everything that they find on Google or the internet. As that noted philosopher Abraham Lincoln said, don't trust everything you read on the internet. I notice in the book is very visually appealing. You've got some great photos in there, and some photos of some old hands and some parasauruses in there, and there's a lot of photos sprinkled throughout the book. Where'd you get them all?
Well,
stuff you've collected over the years.
A lot of them are mine. There's some really old pictures in there of people that I used to work with in St. Louis that I put in there, that are no longer with us. And just trying to honor them a little bit, and pictures of them working, and I mentioned their name, that they should rest in peace. They contributed greatly. They made a great difference in other people's lives, and just trying again to acknowledge them. So some are mine, Kelly, but others I've accumulated. And then I went on Facebook, and there's a Facebook page called Dinosaurs of EMS, which I'm sure you guys might be on. And I put out a call, and oh my gosh, did I get bombarded with pictures? I had to actually tell people, stop. I've got enough pictures here for what I asked for. And so, it was just a plethora of pictures that came in from everybody. And I'm so appreciative for everybody sending those pictures in. And, you said something, Kelly, that kind of resonated with me. There's stuff that you can't find on Google. I'll tell you, there's one part of the book that you have to learn. And that is, I talk about, and I'm sure we've all been there, we've been in the back of those ambulances when the person driving jackrabbits from the start. They step on the accelerator, you get thrown back. They come up to the next intersection, they slam on the brakes, you get thrown frontwards, and it's a terrible ride. And I talk about in the book that, you have to give a smooth ride. And the goal is, see if you can put a glass of water on the stretcher. I'm talking about with no patient, of course, in the back. But put a glass of water on the stretcher and see if you can drive that ambulance without tipping that glass of water over. You'll never find that on Google, and you won't be able to practice that on Google. The only way that you're going to learn that is put that glass of water on the stretcher and practice driving, coming up to a stoplight, leaving a stoplight. Then you don't tip that glass of water over. That will teach you how to drive that ambulance to give them a nice smooth ride in the back.
Yeah, it's an
That's how
interesting.
my dad taught me how to drive with his coffee cup.
Was it really?
Don't spill my coffee, boy.
That's motivating. Well, I mean, Chief,
Yeah.
you've given us a lot of tips, right? I mean, but maybe you could just kind of take us through, maybe throw us out, maybe 3 tips or so that we can find in the book, and I'll let you pick whatever they are. And maybe it's even some of those ones that you had to sit back and say, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So I'll give you one, and it's not really a tip, but it's advice. Documentation. I do work for attorneys, and I see this stuff that comes in on cases, and I'm reading the patient care report, and I'm appalled. Some are very, very good. Some are just excellent at writing patient care reports. But guys, I'm going to tell you, the majority suck. The majority suck, and these are medical legal documents that you may have to defend 2-3 years down the line, and you're not going to remember that call. I can't define it any other way than it sucks. I wish we were teaching our people how to write reports the way the cops teach their guys and their gals.
I do.
You do? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Good, because they're going to court, and they know they're going to court all the time. And they know they got to have their documentation together. Our people don't go to court that often, if at all, except maybe that one time. And it's like, this is atrocious. Kelly, I'm curious, how do you teach your people to write like the cops do? What's the process you go through?
They have a template for how to write a narrative, but it's generally time sequential. I discourage the use of abbreviations and jargon and that sort of thing, because abbreviations are a perfect way for a plaintiff's attorney to start attacking your credibility. What does this mean? What does it stand for? Why didn't you write it out? Can't you spell it? Would you spell it for the jury? You can't spell it. You can't spell it, but you were in a hurry. Or were you in a hurry when you were assessing my client, and that sort of thing. And cops know that they're, as you pointed out, they know that their paperwork is going to end up and be being read aloud in court, and they have long experience dealing with attorneys picking apart what they write. So the phrase I use is one I stole from the great Gene Gandy. I said, when you write for 12 people who were too ignorant to know how to get out of jury duty.
I like that.
Yeah.
I love that. But you're absolutely right. And I'm telling you, I wish everybody had that approach with these education programs we have, because what I see probably 75 to 80% of the time is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
And these default mechanisms that we find in these software programs, it's terrible.
Yeah.
The other thing I talk about is, how many times does your partner write up the patient care report and you don't even read it and you just sign it? You just sign something and you have no idea what they put in there that could possibly hang you also. So, it's our documentation in our profession and how we teach our people has to get better. And I talk about that in the book quite a bit.
There are precious few other resources out there. Denise Graham wrote a great book that's been out of print. I've reached out to her to update and republish that. And David Gibbett has a great book on legal documentation, legal defense. But it is something that is sorely needed. I'm glad to see those tips covered in your book.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that people will not start writing good charts until they have to sit in that wooden chair and answer the questions that, I mean, you make so many mistakes when you're sitting up there. Like, I remember one time in a court case, I said, yeah, I remember this call. Well, how do you remember this call? And what other calls do you remember? Tell me the other calls you remember. How many calls have you run in your? I'm like, yo, dude, man, just back up a little, right? Because you just say things that you shouldn't say, man.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn to say, I don't remember this call. I'll have to revert to my chart here to refresh my memory. But let's get our last question, Chief, so we can get to you. And I guess it's the big question. Everybody wants to contribute to your retirement. How can someone get a copy of this book?
Well, as you know, guys, you don't get rich really writing books, so but it's a passion, and it's something to pass on. But if you're interested in the book, it's available on Amazon, and it's also available in paperback, and it's also available by ebook. And we're getting ready to go in production for the Audible book part. So in the future, the Audible book will be ready. And if you want a signed copy, you can go to GaryLudwigBooks.com, and I'll send you a signed copy.
Very cool. Let us know if we need to come out of retirement, Chief, and we'll do the audio. But we could do some. Kelly and I could do some Once Upon a Times. We could do some way back in the old days. There we were walking uphill in the snow, both.
And by God, we were grateful.
And we were grateful for it.
Absolutely. So Kelly, I know you're writing some fictional books too. How's that going? Because I'm an avid listener of the podcast, and you guys are just fabulous all the time. My gosh, you guys are so good and such a wealth of information. And I've heard you talk about your fictional books that you're writing. How's that going?
It's going well. I'm cranking out short stories right now. I just had another short get accepted for an anthology, and I'm writing my own self-published shorts that are extremely popular on Amazon. They're bestsellers in their class. Just whimsical stuff about Cecil the Combat Wombat and the Battle of Waffle House, and how Waffle House actually is a haven for supernatural creatures. And my two books, I'm working on the second book in the Some Dude Chronicles, and we all know who Some Dude is. He's that evil criminal mastermind responsible for much of the havoc
everything
that EMTs encounter. So I'm writing the second one, written from the perspective of Some Dude. So it's going well.
How many times I've heard either Some Dude or Two Dudes?
Exactly.
Yeah, or Mookie.
So, Kelly, let me ask you a question. Do you have any concern about using the term Waffle House? Is there ever any chance that
I spell it differently.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. Waffle House, Haus.
All right. Way to get around it.
Like the German pronunciation. So
that's right. Yeah. Well, Chief, it's always great to have you here. You don't come back. When we talk about you're an avid fan of the show, 2 million listens, and we know that 1,999,000 belong to you because you've been with us since the beginning. But it's always great to have you here, Chief.
Oh, what a pleasure. And again, you guys contribute so much to our profession. I'm so grateful for what you guys do. I know this takes some time and effort to put something like this together. And again, it's a great listen, and such a wealth of information all the time.
Awesome. Well, it's great having you here, Chief. And for our listeners and our viewers, remember the name of the book is 385 Things Veteran EMTs and Paramedics Can Teach You by Chief Gary Ludwig, available on Amazon.com. And for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero and our special guest this week, Chief Ludwig, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. We're going to catch you guys next week.